Okay, so let's be real. The world is on fire. There's a major war raging, and pretty much every country is being forced to show its hand. Today, we're going to unpack India's playbook, and it's this fascinating strategy people are calling hard realism. You could even say it's a pragmatic, maybe even a little ruthless way to handle a world that's just gone completely sideways. So let me paint you a picture. It's day 27 of a pretty devastating conflict between the United States and Iran. And the Strait of Hormuz, that critical artery for all the world's energy, it's completely blockaded. As you can imagine, oil prices are through the roof, and just about everyone is scrambling to figure out what to do next. And that brings us to the fundamental question every leader on the planet is asking themselves right now. In a crisis like this, how do you protect your own people? I mean, when the world is falling apart, your number one job is to look out for your own national interests. But, well, how you go about doing that can look very, very different depending on who you are.
And this is where things get really interesting, because you see this huge contrast emerge. On one side, you have Pakistan, which has jumped right into the fray. They're positioning themselves as the mediator between the US and Iran. But then you look next door, and India is making a very deliberate, very conscious choice to stay on the sidelines. And the reason why they're doing that? Well, it tells you everything you need to know about their new foreign policy.
And look, this single quote from India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar pretty much says it all. He says, "We are not a dalal nation." Now that word, dalal, it translates to broker or middleman. And let me tell you, using it was a direct shot at Pakistan's historical role of being, a go-between for major powers. Jaishankar is basically saying, that's not who we are. We're not for rent. We act for ourselves, period. And that right there, that gets to the absolute core of India's strategy, protecting what they call strategic autonomy. Now, this isn't about being passive or just hiding from the world. No way. It's a firm refusal to be anyone's messenger boy. It's a lesson learned the hard way, from watching how being a broker can mean you end up sacrificing your own independence and just get tangled up in somebody else's fight. So, all this thinking has led to a really clear strategy. See, India's approach isn't just non-intervention. It's what you'd call active non-intervention, and trust me, the difference between those two things is huge. Okay, so there are basically three pillars to this strategy. First off, India has really deep ties with everyone involved here. We're talking the US, Israel, and Iran. If they tried to mediate, they'd eventually be forced to pick a side, and that could burn a bridge with a critical partner. Second, and this one is key, their absolute top priority is the safety of 9 million Indians who live and work in the Gulf. Getting involved in formal mediation could make India a political target. And finally, third, New Delhi looks at the peace talks Pakistan is hosting and basically sees them as pure theatrics, just for show, especially since Iran itself is saying no formal talks are even happening. So you might be wondering, if India isn't mediating, what are they doing? Well, this is where that active part of active non-intervention really pays off. Instead of, grandstanding on the world stage, India has been quietly working the phones, focusing on things that directly impact its own people. And guess what? It just secured a major, major win. And here's the result of all that quiet, direct diplomacy. Iran has officially named India a friendly nation. What does that mean? It means they've been granted safe passage for their ships through the blocked Strait of Hormuz. Now, this didn't happen because of some big summit or a flashy press conference. It was secured through a direct phone call from Prime Minister Modi to the Iranian president. And that one call ensures the physical supply of oil can actually get to India. But, and this is a huge but, there's a catch, a big one. Sure, the ships can pass, but ensuring that journey has become ridiculously expensive. We're talking premiums that have shot up by 400%. 400. So even though the oil can physically get through, the financial cost of getting it home has just created this massive new problem. And all that financial pressure, you know where it ultimately lands, right? Yep, the local petrol station. So what does all this high-level international diplomacy actually mean for the average person in India just trying to fill up their tank? Well, the reality is pretty grim, honestly. Analysts are saying a petrol price hike of anywhere from 5 to 12 rupees is, and I quote, mathematically inevitable. See, India is facing this awful double whammy. It's not just that crude oil is expensive, the rupee has also gotten weaker against the dollar, which makes every single barrel they import even more costly. For right now, the government is eating that cost, but, that can't last forever. So what's stopping prices from just going to the moon already? Well, It really comes down to one word: diversification. India has been really strategic about shifting its oil supply, and today, a massive 45% of it comes from Russia. That Russian supply is acting like a critical shock absorber, and it's what's keeping the economy from completely seizing up. It's just another key piece in this whole India-first puzzle. And that really brings us back to the core philosophy that's driving every single one of these decisions. This isn't about looking good on the world stage or winning a bunch of international praise. Nope. It's a cold, calculated strategy that's focused on just one thing: building up internal strength so you can weather the external storm. I mean, this contrast right here says everything you need to know. The rest of the world might want India to be out there chasing a Nobel Peace Prize for brokering some kind of truce. But what is India's actual priority? It's something called Operation Gar Wapasi, which is a massive plan to prepare for the evacuation of 9 million of its own citizens from the Gulf. See? It's not about getting global applause. It's about getting your people home safe. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of India's position here. By refusing to mediate, it's protected its strategic autonomy. That's a win. It's secured access for its oil through direct, quiet diplomacy. Another win. But it's now facing these insane insurance costs and the very real threat of price hikes back home. It's the perfect example of a strategy that's all about pragmatic, direct action over any kind of public posturing. And all of this leaves us with a pretty critical question for the world we live in today. In a world that's so interconnected but also so chaotic, is this India-first approach of hard realism the most pragmatic, or maybe even the most responsible form of diplomacy? Honestly, that's a debate that is only just getting started.